welcome to Honest Car Reviews and this Alpine A110 GT. Alpine has simplified their lineup. Now you have the standard A110, the A110 GT and the A110S. So this is supposed to be in the middle, and in this review I'm going to find out if they have been able to make this into a GT car and to compare it with, for example, the Porsche Cayman and the newly launched Lotus Emira. And first and foremost, we need to talk about what the GT is. Apart from the name, you get a stronger engine, but the softer, more subtle chassis from the standard A110. So theoretically, this should be the best of both worlds. Faster, while still the lovely A110 package. The A110S received a fair bit of criticism for being too stiff and competing with Porsche on their home turf, and by doing so losing what is Alpine. So the GT is here to fix all of these issues. So you get 292 horsepower, 320 Newton meters, but the horsepower is only available at higher up. So basically, when you're just trotting along, this will feel like a regular A110. The car also received the bigger 320mm in the front, Brembo brakes here in the lovely gold color or gold bronze color, the bronze finish on the extra option A logo, and some interior tweaks which I will get to. They have embraced tradition but also looked ahead and found something that actually is quite timeless. The shapes aren't shouty, they're not extreme, but they all blend together to create a sporty look. And those front lights create a visual that is truly unique. In this €5,000 extra option matte silver paint, this is the best spec Alpine I have ever seen. The bronze details, the matte finish, is such a lovely spec. I can't explain how well this pops in real life. Do I think that this looks better than a Cayman or a Lotus Emira or Emira? Well, I don't know. This is just a different taste, a different flavor. The car weighs from about 1,100 kilograms. So that is the biggest upside. That if you want something truly light, the Alpine is the way to go. There's nothing that is even close to the same lightness. And this is mid-engine, so you do have some space here. Not the biggest, but you do fit two bags. Not that deep either, but you do have a front bonnet or front hatch, which you do actually have to go inside of the car to open it up. Just look, Alpine here. There are a lot of details in this car. Not the biggest here either. Two small cabin bags fit, but that's just about it. The chassis, almost entirely made of aluminium, with a monocoque design, double triangulated suspension. So this is meant to be driven. It's now 2022. The Alpine was launched in 2017. We have seen or heard rumors or news about Alpine working together with Lotus to make the next all-electric sports car. Will the GT be the last hurrah, together with the new S model with the body kit, the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, and so on? That we'll have to wait and see. Here you have the same color as on the outside, so depending on which color you have on the car, this will have a different color as well. Alright, you sit, of course, very low down. In terms of mechanical or actual visual designs, there are very few. The seats are 6-way manually adjustable, so you can change them up, forward, and the inclination. And actually, me being 187, I have there's a lot of headspace, so being over 190, no problem. The infotainment system has changed just a bit to be able to use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. In terms of design, still the same and still very slow. In the GT, however, you have the Alpine performance gauges, so you have coolant temp, brake, turbo pressure, intake temp, oil temp, and all of that. Not the best visual design, but it gives you the necessary information. But you can see how slow the buttons are at responding, and that is the big problem with this. Doesn't look good, it hasn't updated, it's fairly small as well. It's in a dire need of an update. In terms of the design in general, everything is fairly minimalistic, and I do love it. It makes the Cayman interior feel brutish, big, and fairly old. Some of the things are directly taken from the Renault parts bin, such as the volume controls and the indicator stalks and so on. And this design is not that particularly nice, but other than that, yeah, everything looks really nice. It feels exclusive, it feels unique and exotic. The gauge cluster, the same as before. You have normal, sport, and track, everyone with their unique designs. The blue and the black makes it a bit difficult to read, especially in track when you need to shift, but you have very good light inputs and sound when you need to shift. And if you want to be in sport and in manual, for example, you hold the D button and you'll be in manual. The sound system is the premium focal sound system, and you have basses that are just behind the seats. And I must say that when you up the volume, the sound experience is really good, but below that the basses never really work, and that makes the sound feel pretty not nasal, but it doesn't feel like it has a lot of range in terms of deep down. It feels quite high up. The tweeters and the high frequencies work more than the bass. When you turn the volume up, then everything starts to work together really nicely, but at low volumes sounds lacking in the lower department. Yeah, lovely steering wheel. The shift pedals could go lower down, and since they are mounted on the stock, they don't follow the steering wheel, which means that you have to be quite wary if you're shifting when you're turning. Normally on the highway and in the city and so on, the suspension is the prominently bad thing about the driving experience. Way too stiff, just way too stiff. It comes to its own when you drive more quickly and so on, but in normal driving, just way too stiff. Maybe that's something that you want because it's a sports car, but when it just gets jolted around so much, especially being a GT, it feels like it takes away from the GT name a bit. There's quite a lot of sound from the tires, but very little wind noise actually. I'm grateful for that. The steering is not heavy actually at all, but just nicely weighted. Just nicely weighted. Perfectly balanced. And in general, the throttle, the gas response, especially the gearbox and the engine, driving it normally, no problem, works amazingly well. It is easy to approach, easy to drive, and I think that has a lot to do with it being so light. It doesn't have much weight to lug around and to change gear and so on. Just great and easy to drive. And the tires in the front are 205 wide and in the rear 235. And the tires are Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, not 4SS. The seats are the GT 6-way adjustable seats. And even though they don't have any lumbar support, they are comfortable enough to take for a long journey. I think that my back will be a bit tired though. And they do have a lot of shoulder support, and I think that it would be better if they would go out just a bit more, for me at least. At certain loads and at certain speeds, it does sound like an electrical appliance. The engine is the same 1.8 liter turbocharged 4-pot as in the Megane RS, but of course with a different intake, exhaust and so on. And the intake is actually just at the left of me and on the right here. So when the turbo starts kicking in, you really hear it. And that creates a really nice sound experience, especially with the turbocharged building, the sport exhaust, get sometimes some pops and bangs. And this engine is really rev hung, especially in the 292 horsepower version. And it definitely changed character from being quite bassy to really throaty and high pitch over about 4000 RPM. Let's test how this car is, or it is designed to actually be a really nice twisting road. And we'll start in normal. Yeah. So I've tested both the S and the standard A110, and the prominent change between the 292 horsepower spec and the 252 is the acceleration up top. It doesn't feel quicker when you're under 3000 RPM, and the torque is only 20 Newton meters more. Actually, just putting along like this gives you an amazing feeling in normal. You could put around like this on a side road and just enjoy the Alpine. Let's put it into sport. And the gear changes, the sound of them are changed and they rock you a bit more. They are more distinct and aggressive. You get a lot more sound from the exhaust, especially on the load and up in the revs. And you can cover some real ground in this. You have a lot of confidence in the front and the rear. You just can lean or trust the car that will grip in the bends. I mean, wow. Get some pops as well. Wow. It's a special car, definitely. Special comes to its own on when you drive a bit quicker, that's for sure. Planted, not too stiff, just enough body roll to keep everything fun and interesting. But let's put it into race and manual. You can even have manual in sport. And the shifts get even more aggressive. The brakes. Even though they're upgraded, they feel a bit, yeah, they're easy to read, but I feel a bit more bite. I don't know if I would like bigger front tires for that, or it's the brakes itself. I get a good feel, but especially under hard braking, the front does feel a bit, not nervous, but it starts to slide. It feels alive. That's maybe what the thing is. Yeah, it is really quick. Wow, it covers ground so amazingly quick, and especially in race. It's difficult. I hope you can hear me because it's quite loud in here. But wow, 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 wow. I can't even talk. I'm almost speechless. Wow. When you start to reach that level with the softer suspension, it's just so much more enjoyable to be up there at the... When you start to reach like 8/10, 9/10, it's so enjoyable. It has launch control, which you can access both in sport and track. Just pull the pedals, launch control on, hold the brake, hold the... The shifts are really aggressive. 0 to 100 km an hour is done in 4.2 seconds. But accessing that extra performance is not impossible, but on some tighter sections like this, I think I said it in S as well. I'm smiling from ear to ear right now. When you start to just open up, you can just... But that extra horsepower and performance with the GT, I would like some extra torque, because on tight roads like that part where we just were, I would like some extra torque. I don't feel myself being in that top range as much as I'm like in 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 maybe. But wow, oh man, I'm starting to get sick. This car is so fast, so capable, but still so enjoyable. What I would like is not only for it to have a different sound from the rear, maybe a V6, something like that, but 80% of the time you don't really feel those extra horsepower. I'm just really impressed by the stability, the tuning of it all, how neutral it is, but also can make it oversteer if you want to, but it's just enough of power to make it feel fun, enjoyable, and just a nice all-round package. The Alpine A110 GT is the best of both worlds. Faster than the regular A110, but softer and more subtle than the A110S. With this car being so light, so powerful, you have to go so quickly that feeling the limit between the S and this GT, I think will be a difficult task for a lot of people. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires give enough grip, enough feel, but at the limit they're extremely predictable. The whole car in itself is extremely predictable. So in terms of the Alpine model lineup, this is the best, hands down. But you do pay a premium for that with Alpine. What the future holds, well, the future is definitely EV, and in terms of driving experience and invoking some emotion, I think lightweight will be the way to go for EVs, because you lose sound. And in that aspect I have complete faith in what Alpine can do. They're working together with Lotus. But in terms of trying to compete in the sports car market, Alpine has some work cut out for them. Not offering a 6-cylinder, not offering a manual, even though the 7-speed DCT is an amazing gearbox, is something that I think Alpine will lose in the long term. But the lightweight approach, these amazing driving dynamics, chassis tuning and so on, will always be a fresh alternative. But unless they start to compete in terms of specs, price and so on, I think that Alpine will always be just behind everything else. And that's why they haven't sold as much as the Porsche Cayman and so on, because they really can't compete where people lie the values right now. Porsche is more powerful and have better 0 to 100 km an hour times. And I don't want to look at it like that. But it seems that in terms of sales, Porsche is established. Lotus is coming with something new, with the V6, more power and so on. This is the lightweight approach, and I hold my heart for Alpine because they've done this way. It is the true way. But does it sell cars? Speccing it out and seeing what I can get for a second-hand Porsche Cayman with a amazing sounding 6-cylinder engine, it's difficult to justify the price of the Alpine when you can have such a sweet engine from Porsche, and even in later stages the Lotus Emira. That is perhaps my final conclusion for the Alpine. If you have something to say, if you think my conclusion is wrong, it's right, have a different take on what Alpine is, what they're doing right and wrong, write a comment, and see you in the next video.